Hey friend, Roger Christofferson here again with another first listen review, and it's kind of saying first listen in quotes here, but I guess it kind of is and kind of isn't, and that's what we're going to be talking about today, or should I say babbling about today, is the new release from U2 called Live in Dublin 1993, their 5-song EP. This is taken from one of 2 shows that they did in Dublin at this big open air arena, and I didn't realize there was 2 shows. And I had the radio broadcast version of this, so it was a bootleg, and I didn't know there was another show that I had to get online here and search out real quick, which wasn't too hard to find, but I did find it, and started listening to that one after I did this. But anyway, we'll get back to this release here. It was just taken from that show they did back in 1993, and this was right when Zooropa came out, and they're doing the Zoo TV, big, huge shows where they had, Bono had the remote control and all the TV screens behind him, and he's changing screens and checking out news stuff going on and commenting and all that. So it was like they're really, they're still big now, but they're absolutely, huge at this point in time. And so I got it. I had to get it. I couldn't just let it go. I had to hear what it sounded like. And not gonna lie, it sounded pretty good. But just gonna mention a little bit my, fanship or whatever you want to call it with U2. I remember seeing when I was really young. I rented a VHS tape, from the local place. It was their Live at Red Rocks, and I just thought that was the coolest show. I didn't really know them that well, and obviously they're very young at this point in time. Their big songs, back then, when I had seen this, were like New Year's Day and Sunday Bloody Sunday. It was like huge on the radio at that point in time. And then I rented this, and that was really all I knew about U2 at that point in time. But I remember watching that show and thinking that Bono was a great performer and just had a cool energy about it. And it was my dream at that point that someday I want to play Red Rocks, so, which I still haven't done, but someday, who knows. But anyway, so I just kind of always followed them from that point on. I think U2 has, their own style that they've developed, different, versions of themselves over time. They went from that, which is kind of a new wave type feel they had of their own back then, even though it was, they're just a 4-piece band. They didn't really use keyboards or anything too much back then. And then kind of went to Joshua Tree type stuff, where it was more, soulful, and and the whole the live thing they did there afterwards. Rattle and Hum was drawing a blank there on that album, and then they completely did a left turn and went into all that stuff from Achtung Baby, and they've just continuously changed and looking for something new all the time. So I admire that about them. Haven't always hit the mark for me every single time. Some of the more recent stuff is not my favorite, but I still get everything. So anyway, when I saw this coming out, and I actually really liked this era of the band. I thought they had really developed a style of their own. It was a lot different at that point in time, and so I was real eager to listen to this and hear what it sounded like. And I can tell you right off the bat, the fact that it's an official release, and they obviously, as a soundboard recording, went in and remixed it or something, because it sounds better than the bootleg I have that was broadcast. So I don't know, they did some enhancements to it of some sort. So I don't know if they recorded it track by track or just took a soundboard recording, remastered. I don't really know exactly what they did to it, quite honestly, but it does sound really good. The bass really cuts through great, and I'm going to tell you, that's one thing that I noticed standing out right from the start. And I actually mentioned this to my son, who was listening to it, and I was in the room listening to it too, and I go, man, those bass parts are just, I've always known it, but when it just comes to your mind again, how much the bass adds to these songs. He doesn't get enough credit as a bass. He's not flashy. He doesn't do all this amazing flashy runs and all this stuff, but he comes up with lines that are just make the song so much better and just groove, and he just locks right in. And I don't know. I just think he gets Adam Clayton, that is, I'm not even saying his name, Adam Clayton, his bass lines just don't get the attention they deserve. So, it starts out, got Zoo Station and Even Mysterious Ways, which was like a big hit of theirs, just that bass part in that song, I think is just makes the song what it is. So that was one thing that I really noticed. And one of my favorite songs of theirs is Trying to Throw Your Arms Around the World. So I'm glad they included that on this one. And I thought that was, a great way to start this thing out. And the two that I wasn't not too sure about, I didn't really care to hear, were Stay, Far Away, So Close, which I know a lot of people love that song. Never been one of my favorites, but it sounded really good on here, and actually had a different arrangement to it that I actually didn't remember listening to. It kind of started out a little more mellow and then kind of built its way up. And I don't remember the original being that way, with the bass and drums not coming in until the second verse. So I was like, I think that's a little different than the original. So I did like that. And then Love Is Blindness, which I didn't think, was like I was going to enjoy. I actually really enjoyed that on here. It did have a different feel to it. On Oxung Baby, it just was a good song, but it didn't really ever stand out to me. But I think the ambientness of the live version of it just came out a little more, like the background effects stood out a little bit more, and the organ in it just kind of gave it a more chilling type feeling than I think it had on the album. So I thought that was pretty cool, and it was a nice way to close it out. I don't usually like it when things end out in a mellow tone, but I guess it worked for this one. So it's not the whole concert, obviously. So I do recommend checking out the whole concert, because I did start listening to the one I was telling you about, the version that I didn't have, the other show that I didn't have, and the recording of that one's not so good. The bootleg I found is obviously it's a audience recording of it. It's not the soundboard one that was released as the radio broadcast. So it obviously it sounds good. So I did check out the radio broadcast version of it too, and like I said, this one does sound a little bit better. So they did do a remaster of this back in 2010 of the broadcast. I don't have that one, which I should probably get, because now I want to listen to the whole thing. And maybe I'll come back and let you know how that compared. But I was glad I picked this up. I mean, that's 5 songs they did. Sound great. I wish they would have done the whole thing, but who knows? Maybe another 20, 30 years to release the whole thing. But it seems to be the way things are going with this type of stuff lately. But anyway, that's my little take on it. As always, I welcome you to feel free to leave any comments or whatever experiences you have of U2 and your opinions of them, whether it is the same as mine or not, doesn't really matter. Just as long as we all talk about it in a constructive way. I don't like just tearing other people's opinions down for no reason at all. But love hearing from you guys, and as always, I ask you to like, share, and subscribe to keep this music alive, because I really like U2. I don't care what other people say about them. I like U2. That's just the way it is. And until next time, we will see you.